The man poured boiling water into the sink. Then he put the clay into the water. After it completely melted, he shaped the clay into a curve. Then he placed it into a prepared mold. Then he pressed down with all his strength. A fake handgun was now complete. Then the man knocked on the door and handed the gun to his partner. The robber then swaggered into the cabin. Everyone was stunned at the sight. Two other accomplices rushed out as well. The three robbers quickly took control of the passengers. They took a flight attendant hostage and forced her to reveal the air marshal's identity. To prevent harm to the passengers, the air marshal could only surrender. Under the robber's threat, the man had no choice but to hand over his weapon. Just then a passenger suddenly fought back. He shouted for others to help, but everyone froze at the sight. No one dared to lend a hand. The fat man was beaten badly by the robbers. When he fell to the floor and stopped moving, the cabin fell silent. Then the robbers raised a banner and shouted the slogans of a terrorist group. At this time the captain noticed something was wrong in the cabin. He immediately set the transponder to 7,500. Air traffic control quickly realized the situation, but then a passenger's secret filming was discovered. To better control everyone, the robbers not only confiscated their phones, they even herded all the passengers into economy class. Then the robbers again took the flight attendant hostage, demanding the captain open the cockpit door, but they were refused. The robbers had no choice. They could only use the phone to demand the government release their leader. But to everyone's surprise, they were not the only hijackers on the plane. The man's sneaky glances seemed more like he already knew the flight attendant, and their real target was the 1.2 billion in diamonds hidden on the plane. The shipment was specially ordered from the Middle East by Minister Barada. To ensure it returned home safely, they set 3 layers of security for the diamond phone. First was a trustworthy courier. Second, they split the password into 2 parts, one held by the minister and one by the security company. Only by entering both parts could the safe be opened. Lastly was the GPS on the phone's SIM card. If someone touched the SIM card, or the shipment went off course, they would be notified immediately. And most importantly, they insured it for a huge sum. But what they never expected was that there was a mole inside their team. Nick secretly met with the minister's secretary, because if he could get the other half of the password, even if the diamonds were lost, the minister would suffer no loss, and the two of them could rise to power. It was clearly a risk-free deal, but since the phone had GPS, the best place to act was on the plane, so Nick decided to team up with his girlfriend. Although they didn't know the courier's exact identity, for safety the company required him not to eat or drink during transit, but their cleverness backfired, and it became their way to identify the target. Lisa used her flight attendant position to question each passenger until she finally found the target. Then Lisa used the same trick again, pretending to accidentally spill on the courier's clothes while collecting dishes. To avoid suspicion, the man could only go to the restroom to clean up. But just as they were about to succeed, another group of hijackers suddenly appeared. To get the diamonds, Nick pretended to have asthma. He claimed his medicine was in his bag and asked to return to his seat. The robbers only wanted to free their leader. They didn't want to kill anyone, so they agreed to let him go to business class for his medicine. But they didn't realize Nick was a top thief. He found the courier's bag and finally located the case containing the phone. But just after entering the password, he suddenly felt a chill behind him. At some point, a robber had appeared behind him. Nick calmly hid the safe and lied that the medicine wasn't here. But the asthma attack he had moments ago was suddenly gone. Seeing his cover about to be blown, Nick quickly began breathing heavily again, but there was no fooling them twice. The robber punched him in the nose. The noise alerted the others. Seeing Nick covered in blood, the robbers lost all sympathy and dragged him back. Lisa panicked at the sight and begged them to treat Nick. Meanwhile, to protect the hundreds of passengers, the government agreed to the hijackers' demands and even provided a helicopter. To stay informed, the minister sent his secretary to the scene. They quickly called to discuss hostage exchange details. Only one robber remained in the cabin now. Lisa understood the signal. She distracted the man, giving Nick another chance. He slipped back into business class and finally got the diamond-encrusted phone. Then he pulled a fake phone from his bag. After swapping the SIM card, he secretly put it back. But just as he thought he was in the clear, he ran straight into a robber. Nick quickly dropped his bag, but this time there was no fooling them. At the robber's demand, Nick opened the bag. When the robber saw the diamonds, Nick took the chance when he turned to call for help, to attack from behind. At that moment the plane landed. The violent jolt caused the gun to fire. The sound alerted the others, but they arrived to find their partner was dead. Without a word the robbers beat Nick. During the struggle, Nick managed to hide the phone. When another robber arrived, Nick was completely subdued. They dragged him into the restroom. Meanwhile the air marshal broke free. Seeing Nick being beaten, the man grabbed the dropped gun and shot the robbers without hesitation. But after killing both men, the crisis was not over. Instead, a bigger problem arose. When the situation became known, the cabin descended into chaos. Lisa rushed to calm the passengers. She frantically opened the cabin door and began evacuating everyone. Once all passengers were safe, the police began defusing the bomb. But to everyone's shock, the bomb was fake. And even stranger, the bodies of the 3 robbers had vanished. When the sheriff learned this, he realized this was no ordinary hijacking. The prepared helicopter and tower guards saw nothing unusual. It was as if the robbers vanished into thin air. Realizing the problem, the sheriff sealed the exits and ordered no passengers to leave. But when he went to find the air marshal, he found a drunk man fast asleep. After the captain confirmed, they learned he was the real air marshal.
आपने जिन हाईजैकर्स को मारा उनकी बॉडी कहाँ है? हाईजैक? आपका प्लेन हाईजैक हुआ था, टेररिस्ट थे, आपने उनको मारा, उनकी बॉडी कहाँ है?
नो सर, मैंने किसी को नहीं मारा।
क्या बकवास कर रहे हैं आप?
I didn't kill anyone. मैं तो बेहोश था।
अगर आपने नहीं मारा तो फिर किसने मारा?
मुझे नहीं पता सर किसने मारा है। मैं तो अपने सेंस में ही नहीं था।
Hearing this, the sheriff realized things were far from simple. But when they sought clues from passengers, no one knew who fired the gun. The sheriff quickly called the guards, only to learn an officer had just left. That man was the fake air marshal. Then to find the terrorist hiding among the passengers, the sheriff decided to question them one by one. Meanwhile, Nick brought the diamonds to the secretary, but after expert examination, the diamonds were fake. The secretary accused Nick, thinking he wanted to keep them. He threatened Nick to hand them over, or he would never leave alive. But Nick was confused. He had swapped the phone himself, so why were they all fake? The secretary gave him 1 hour to find the real diamonds, or his entire family would die. But Nick had no idea where the problem was, let alone how to find them, as he was at a loss. Lisa secretly came to him. After hearing the full story, she was shocked, but thinking of their future, Lisa hugged Nick tightly. She didn't want money to separate them, but without money how could they start over? Nick angrily grabbed her by the neck.
You think this is a fucking joke? You think मैं यहाँ तक मजाक करके पहुँचाऊँ? ये क्या फिर से शुरू करेंगे? मैं पूरी प्लानिंग फिर से शुरू कर दूँ? या मैं ये कि अपना मुंह फिर से तोड़वा लूँ?
Nick grew angrier, and finally admitted he never loved Lisa. His only purpose in approaching her was to steal the diamonds. He didn't care if she lived or died. Then he stormed out, leaving Lisa clutching her head, heartbroken. But no one expected this seemingly fragile woman was actually the ultimate winner. It turned out, for this heist, Nick had scouted in advance, and chose Lisa the flight attendant as his mark. Then he created chances, and made her drop her guard. Nick presented himself as a successful man, and eventually won her over. Soon, they fell in love, but this time he went too far. When Lisa got pregnant, Nick began to worry, but to get the diamonds, he sweet-talked her again. Just as Lisa believed him, 2 strangers suddenly appeared. Seeing her husband bullied, Lisa rushed to ask what was wrong. Nick claimed an employee had lost diamonds months ago, and those 2 were the owner's men, demanding repayment, or they would charge him with theft. But Lisa was furious at hearing this. Her father had died in a robbery before her eyes. Seeing her disappointment, Nick quickly rebuilt his heroic image, and promised to settle it soon. But after a prenatal checkup, they again ran into the debt collectors. He tried to take Lisa away, but they would not let him go. Seeing her husband beaten, Lisa ran over, only to be kicked away. Nick went mad at the sight, and beat them violently. When she woke again, she was in the hospital. Her baby was gone. Nick rushed in to comfort her, but then, the phone rang again. Facing threats, Nick pretended to resist, but Lisa unexpectedly agreed to help. She would use her job to help him. Having lost her baby, she didn't want to lose her husband too. Nick told her to rest, and said he would ask the doctor. But after she left, Lisa got a message from a friend. It was a recording of Nick and the 2 thugs.
No, Lisa! Again! Suspected bastard! लड़की को नहीं मारना था साले। Sorry, चलो निकले यहाँ से।
Lisa couldn't believe what she heard. When she went to look for Nick, she saw him driving away. He had said he was going to ask the doctor, so why sneak off now? But she still hadn't suspected him. When Nick entered a bar, he immediately threw a punch.
तुझे बोला था ना लड़की को नहीं मारना है।
आपको तो थैंक यू बोलना चाहिए। लड़की भी मान गई और आपका बच्चा भी आउट हो गया।
And what happened inside was all seen by Lisa, who followed him. At that moment she finally believed her beloved husband never loved her. He was a complete scumbag, and his anger was not over their lost child, but over his handsome face being hit. Lisa was in disbelief, but confident Nick didn't know he had provoked a dangerous woman. To get revenge, Lisa contacted her old partners. They had once been a famous theft crew, but disbanded when she grew tired of it. Now their leader was in trouble. They would avenge her. Before takeoff, Lisa drugged the real air marshal's drink, putting him to sleep. Since weapons were not allowed on board, her partner made a fake gun from clay to crush the the passengers' hope. The fat man staged a beating, destroying their morale. Then they took all the phones, leaving only one for their partner. Another partner disguised as a flight attendant took the gun and replaced the bullets. They herded passengers to economy class to shuffle the seating. After swapping the phone, they had one last task: to ruin the scumbag's face. Then using chocolate, they made a fake bomb, finally creating chaos. While everyone ran off the plane in panic, the three robbers changed clothes and walked off openly. The fake air marshal used his identity to escape with the diamonds. They chose a small airport because it couldn't hold all passengers. The police were overwhelmed. Even if they found the real robbers, they had no evidence. Passengers didn't know who sat beside them. Even the flight attendants couldn't say who was missing. The beaten fat man became a hero. Nick tried hard to clear his name. Everyone had a reason to be on the flight, except one partner whose reason was weak, but he was ruled out for providing video. Only the air marshal said Lisa brought him a drink. At that moment Lisa hid in the restroom, making a secret call. When the sheriff tried to question her phone rang. It was the minister. Lisa had just threatened him to stop the investigation, or she would expose his corruption. To prove her sincerity, she gave him evidence of Nick stealing the diamonds. To avoid public panic, the minister demanded the case be closed as terrorists killed. The air marshal became a national hero. Under pressure from above, the sheriff obeyed. As passengers left the airport, a perfect crime came to an end. Facing the media, the minister had already chosen a scapegoat. The diamond theft plan had been gifted to him by Lisa. Nick now realized everything was Lisa's scheme, but it was too late for regret. All that awaited him was a hijacking charge. Lisa had already taken a new identity and started